Hello and welcome back to the Real Estate Roundup podcast. I am your host, Kobe Zinn, and I am joined here, as always, by my co hosts, Tony Flores and Andres Martinez, both real estate agents in the great state of Texas. How you guys doing today?
Great,
Awesome.
great.
Awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. This is for our viewers and our listeners, this is the first episode that we're recording here in 2024. So, thought it might be a good idea or a good time to kind of catch up. See how you guys how your New Year's is going. So, we'll start with you, Tony. How's your 2024 been so far?
Oh, it's going great. Had some good time to catch up with family members. My son's actually graduated recently. He graduated in December from college, and he's going into. He actually just going back for his master's. And my daughter also. She's in her first year in college, and she's just went back yesterday. So we just had some good time to catch up with them. Do some celebrations. It was her birthday also last week as well. So we had a lot of stuff, with Christmas, a lot of family celebrations, and then we kind of went into had a little break, had a graduation celebration, then had a birthday celebration. So ready to hit the ground running with the new year as well. So back on track.
Awesome, man. What about you, Andres?
Just enjoying time with family. Was able to close out the year fairly strong. The beginning of the year is usually a little bit slow, so I'm building as many connections, reaching out to all my clients, doing a couple of pop bys, and then here and there enjoying some time with the family as well.
Awesome, man. Yeah. So sounds like the new year is getting off to a really good start, and it's gonna be a good year in here in 2024. So today, the topic that we're gonna be digging into is home inspections. So if you are interested in learning more about the intricacies and some of the details that involves getting a home inspection and also knowing when to walk away from a home, even though you might like it after seeing the inspection report, um, this is definitely the episode for you. So we'll start digging right into it right away. So you guys have both been real estate agents, real estate investors as well. So what are some of the most important benefits of getting a home inspection, right? Because you're a buyer, and you might be looking at a piece of real estate, and you walk in and everything looks fine, and you just want to put an offer in. You're in a hurry. So why should somebody actually get a home inspection, especially if they are in a hurry? Because that's usually why they wouldn't do so. So we'll start with you, Tony, and then we'll get your take on this.
Yeah. So in my opinion, there's really no good time to not get an inspection. If someone's in such a hurry to contract the property and say, I'm not going to worry about the inspection, it's doing themselves a disservice. A great example is I had a gentleman who was very interested in a property. It was an older property. It had a septic system, had AC. I could tell that this was kind of later in the summertime. Had a AC, and I could tell the roof was bad. The AC was not on, and the rest of the power was on. So just kind of there's things that can kind of flag you. Say, okay, why isn't the AC on? It's a hot day, should be on. So, and he said, and he was very eager. He wasn't in a time crunch. He was more in a crunch where he felt like I want to get this property, and I don't want to get someone else to buy it. So he said, let's write an offer. And truthfully, like he as he told me, like he's bought lots and lots of properties. He has investment properties. He has rentals. And so I was kind of surprised when he said, look, let's do this. No, we don't need to negotiate on the price. We just want to make sure that they accept the terms. But the terms were a little bit creative. I can talk more about that later. But regarding the inspection, he says, let's give them the offer price, no inspection, and no option period. And I said, okay. So that sounds like a very savory deal to someone that's writing a contract, because the other side is going to say like, hey, let's take it, right? Makes sense. But I said, look, I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you I would want you to get an inspection. And if I didn't tell you that, I feel like it could hurt. So I said, why don't you? I said, I can get an inspector out here tomorrow. Um, I feel like it's a good idea just to get it for peace of mind. If nothing else, that, okay, I know there's some issues with the house, but I can deal with them. Even if you can swallow those issues, at least you have that awareness. So I said, let's just get a three day option period. It was either 3 day or 5 day. The house had been on market more than 2 weeks, so I felt comfortable with the option period. So I said, let's do an option period. Let's get an inspection. I can get someone out here tomorrow, and we'll be fine. I said, okay. So I write the offer with the full ask, but with the inspection. I got a inspector out there. It did have a septic system, so I sent one that would do that septic inspection. What they found out was during the inspection, there's other things like I expected. The AC needed to be replaced, the roof needed to be replaced. It was just an overhouse. But the important part is the septic system was deteriorating, and it was essentially at the end of its life cycle. So without that inspection, we wouldn't necessarily have known that, or it wouldn't have been verified, right? So the septic inspection essentially failed, and that was essentially a way for us to renegotiate the contract. And he ended up saving $20,000 on when we went back. We just did some more negotiating. We I think actually it was between $20,000 and $25,000 because the AC, because the septic. So that one decision to get an inspection report saved him between $20,000 and $25,000. So we didn't have to walk away, but they were willing to negotiate that. Another inspection we did. The house looked good; it was in good shape, but and it was actually a one-story property, and this happened to be in New Braunfels, and there was no cracks on the walls. Like typically when there's foundation issues, you see cracks near doorways, near frames, and things like that. Didn't see that, but I felt like there was a slight dip in the house. I had an inspector go out there. They did the inspection. There was one of the tests they did on the bathtubs. They fill the tub and wait for the water to seep down to see if it's draining properly. Well, there was a gurgling sound when it's draining. So what does that tell you? It tells you there's air in the pipes and there's some problem with the pipes. So the other part we found out, and whenever dealing with plumbing that's underneath, or it could be the pipe that's going directly to kind of siphon from the roof. But either way, we knew there was a problem with the plumbing. The other problem we found, even though the foundation, there was no signs of foundation problems, the house essentially was like this, and it was moving almost like that, not like buckling in the center. It was kind of going on almost like a plate. Like the foundation was solid, but it was just sliding back. And that was due to a lot of water, in my opinion, was due to a lot of water runoff, because there was a slope in the backyard, a slight slope. So there was a runoff from the neighbors, and all the rain over the time, it kind of made the foundation shift, and that's my opinion how it happened. But that was a walkaway deal because the sellers didn't want to do the repairs. They didn't want to pay for replacement, and possibly what could happen once you start doing foundation repairs, pipes could get cracked and things like that. So there's a lot of things that could happen with a foundation and repairing the foundation. So those are the couple of two deals that I know for sure that were kind of stood out. There's more things, more reasons why to get a home inspection, but I think that's probably a
Yeah.
couple of good examples.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot,
That's right.
on, had this issue, right? So, what is your take on, getting inspections? Is there any reason for somebody to waive that when they're getting a home, or should you be, always getting an inspection?
As a realtor, I always recommend a home inspection. The reason being is it's a second trained eye whose job is to do a thorough inspection, and then they're able to provide a report with any deficiencies in the home or something that might have not been done properly. So even though, like in a new home builder, sometimes they're trying to provide the best property possible, but sometimes an oversight, um, or not little or big, um, during oversight people can not level a window right. An AC unit could be wired incorrectly. A ceiling fan could be wired incorrectly. Insulation, uh, they could have skipped the whole step. So by having a trained eye who inspects the home and their sole job is to make sure that the house is functioning properly and there's no severe deficiencies, at least you got a report with a written description, and it also has pictures to support that if there's anything that needs to be repaired, um, you can negotiate that with your client with a supporting document.
Right. So you brought up a good point there, which is people buying new homes, right? Because there's a lot of buyers, especially I think recently in the market, are looking at new build, new construction homes, and they think, what could possibly go wrong with this brand new home that was just built like pretty much like right in front of me. So you're saying that even if you're buying a new construction home, you should be getting a home inspection. Is that correct?
That is correct. I know during the time during COVID and with the supply being backed up, I had an inspector actually that was given a class, and he gave us his what he had been seeing. Obviously, he's inspecting hundreds of houses a month, and what he explained to us is due to the process of because of the supply chain, the process wasn't going from step one to step 10. It was going step one, step four, step 10. Then they would go back to step two. But step two or three might be the windows. So if you've done something that was supposed to be a step, uh, 4 steps prior, and you fell behind because of the supply chain, now how are you going to get that window to level out? Making sure that you're able to do that properly. So one thing that he had noticed is a lot of the windows weren't leveled properly because they were having to deal with the framing already as far as the sheetrock. And usually that's done during the framing stage.
Yeah. So I don't think a lot of people understand that concept, right? That when during the supply chain when there were a lot of issues that builders were not necessarily building in the sequence that they're used to building, and that could cause the potential issues, right? So there's always a benefit in getting an inspection to understand kind of what might be wrong with the home, or right, or what like you said, having a second pair of eyes, a trained pair of eyes to actually look into what might be the issues there. So
And then, yeah, great points, Andres. The other thing that I also want to mention is if you purchased a new home and you have these warranties that are kind of like one's like a bumper to bumper warranty. Usually, it's we call it like a pretty much we refer to it as a bumper to bumper warranty, but it includes sealing around base plates and things like that. It includes all pretty much a lot of things that could be um, kind of the builder's error, like the builder made an error on that. It's typically the things that you would put on a blue tape walkthrough. If things were missed during that point, you have a year, and some builders offer a longer part than that. And then there's also like a mechanical part of that warranty. Then there's a 10-year, usually a 10-year structural and foundation warranty. So the important thing to do is get a home inspection right before, like a month before those warranties expire, because you want another set of eyes to say, was there anything wrong with this part? And I had a client of mine, his warranty is kind of like bumper to bumper warranty, which is kind of, I don't know what you call it. It's like an umbrella warranty, right? So there were issues. His house was built during COVID, during the supply chain issues. There were some shortages. What happened was they were using some fuses during that time frame that weren't actually the proper ones, but they were getting them across the finish line, which is getting the house finished. But they were tripping, like, say, for instance, the oven, the stove and the oven, it would have to be constantly fixed or flipped. So that what happened was the fuse box, that was a problem. So these things can be avoided and can be fixed if the inspection report shows that it's deficient and it's forwarded to the warranty claim center. So that's really another great time. Even after you buy a house, if you purchased a new home, get those inspections before those warranties run out, because you'll save yourself probably money and headache down the road as well.
Also, for a new build, when you want to get a new builder's inspection, you can actually get it upon the pour of the slab, um, when the framing goes up. So you can get a new build inspection, and it goes by certain steps, and then therefore um, they're able to set eyes, like the electrical. If there's no sheetrock, they have full access to the electrical wire, and they can make sure everything is done correctly. So for a new build, sometimes it's special situation because you do get access to the home and it's bare bones. So that's one thing to remember. If you're building your dream home, if you're getting a new build, getting a new home inspection might benefit you. It might cost a couple of $100s more, but it's worth it. It'll
That's
save you
right.
some money in the long run.
Yeah, and it gives you more peace of mind. You have, someone else out there. Builders have their own inspectors, but nothing wrong with having another expert set of eyes as well. And then you have to also keep in mind that the inspectors, they are really good at a lot of things. They're just not experts in one particular thing. They might, I'm saying in most cases, they're not an expert plumber. They don't have a plumbing license. They don't have an electrician license. But they know what the standards are. The best inspectors know what the standards are, and they will help keep those builders accountable for those standards and protect you. So, great point.
Absolutely. So it's peace of mind, and it's also getting that actual protection, right? So it's like, it's like almost like an additional layer of insurance to get that inspection rather than not do it. So I think another question a lot of people might have is, when you're getting a home inspection, right? And we talked a little bit about this earlier, but what are some of the red flags that you see that could really kind of set off, this might be an unfixable issue, or this might take us back to the negotiating table where we can't, it's not like a small issue, right? Where we need to maybe negotiate a lot of contingencies or a lot of concessions from the sellers. So we'll start with you, Tony. So from just kind of what you've seen, maybe some of the stories you were telling, what are some, I would say, like, common red flags that people might see in a home inspection?
Yeah. So to me, red flags would be anything that has to deal with your client's safety. If there's electrical issues, um, you know, it has to do with safety. So those are probably the ones, and there's other things, but you know, for instance, a drain that doesn't stop all the way or something like that. Those will show up in inspection. So an inspector's job really is to find as many problems as possible. But yeah, there's different levels as far as, and even some inspection reports will say, okay, this is kind of like a watch out type thing. This is a yellow and this is a red. The dangerous things, right? So roof inspection. So how long will the roof, in their opinion. They're not going to give they're not going to give what the timeline is to roof on, but they will highlight if there's damage to the shingles. Say, for instance, if there's a tree, that could be something that, how bad is it? The main thing is, red flags, and everything's negotiable in real estate. So, what's your client's best interest for sure is safety. So we really want to make sure the safety things get squared away, and anything else outside of safety could be we prefer this, or it could be like, hey, is this something you can handle on your own with your own handyman, or is this something that bothers you? Things like that. So red flags to me, just things related to safety for sure.
Yeah, that's good. Making sure that when you move into the house, you don't actually get hurt or injured. I think that's a pretty important thing to look out for. What about you, Andres? What have you seen as far as maybe even on a new home inspection? Are there other things that could affect the buyer to actually not go through with the purchase because this is such an outstanding issue?
So I think the benefit of having an inspector for an existing or a new build is they're very good about knowing the codes. They understand the codes, and they're able to explain why certain things need to be done to the code requirement. Everything should be done to code. So if you have a water heater, you need an expansion tank. And then it gives you a detailed description on the report of why it explains the code, and it'll actually point out with arrows on a picture why it's not up to code. Therefore, when you're negotiating for your client, there shouldn't be much discussion if it should get repaired. You're just passing on the information that, hey, this needs to be rectified. I want to make sure my clients has a safe house. We all want to make sure our clients have a safe home to live. So the good thing about an inspector is they're very good about understanding codes and why, if it's not done correctly, they have an explanation to explain the code and why it needs to be rectified.
And it's for sure, and it's true. Also, the other part of that is when the house was built, it might some of those things might not have been to code when it was built. So now there's new codes, and so people have to just decide, is this okay, or does it need to be changed?
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of things I think just, as a general like citizen, right, who's not a real estate expert, you kind of turn a blind eye to even when it comes to like possible safety issues, right? So you just don't know until somebody who understands the code, who knows why things are done the way they should be, right? Which is an inspector, actually generates that report and look at some of the things and maybe tells you not just what needs to be fixed, but why this needs to be fixed and why this can cause a potential issue and you having a safe and comfortable life in your new home. So
I I think one of the things that an inspector that us realtors benefit from is they have no attachment or emotions or any feeling attached to the property, and they're going to do a thorough report specifically on the home, and it's going to be an unbiased opinion. And I think that really benefits our clients because the client has their emotions. The real estate agent wants to make sure they take care of their client, um, and the inspector is not worried about disappointing anyone. They just want to make sure that the house is functional and up to code. So I think they give an unbiased opinion that helps everyone in the transaction.
yep, I love that, an unbiased opinion, right? That's kind of what you want in this scenario. So let's kind of wrap things up here today. And this might be a strange question, but for those who are working with a real estate agent, right? So you're both real estate agents. What can the difference be when it comes to working with an agent and maybe getting an inspection that is on time and up to standards versus maybe buying it yourself without an agent, or maybe working with an agent who's not necessarily connected or understands the kind of like what happens and what goes into an inspection, right? So we'll start with you, Tony, again. What would you say is an agent's role in getting the inspection, but also helping the buyers understand, what goes into the inspection and how it can help them?
Yeah. So I would say just buying a house is a journey. So when you go on a journey, for instance, if you're going to navigate, for instance, you're going to, you know, climb a mountain. You know, there are people there that can help you get up that mountain that have been there before. They're familiar with that journey, and that's what you have those experts for, because they're there for, you know, in those cases they're there for your safety. They're make sure that you're prepared. For instance, you have, you know, what you need as far as you're dressed properly. You have what you need for the meals and all that kind of stuff. So that's what you happen going on a journey climbing a mountain. But in the real estate journey, you know, a great realtor is there to help you through that journey, to navigate those waters, and they're familiar with inspection reports. They can help you decide, okay, or help you through that process of filtering out, is this important, and you know, this is kind of what's most important possibly in my mind. This is what might be in the middle, and this is kind of like, you know, what do you want to decide with that. The other part of inspections is they can help protect you as, for instance, the seller, and not have you sign something that you shouldn't be held accountable for. In some cases, like for instance, um, I've seen in somewhere where a realtor has sent an inspection report and says it's just very vague. So I don't want my sellers to sign things that's vague. I want it to be very specific. Fix this light in the back, you know, by the patio door. You know, replace it with, you know, something comparable. It needs to be as specific as possible. I won't let my seller sign something that doesn't that's just very vague, because it puts us in a position where, you know, we could be doing this, but it's not what the buyer can have a backup, or just try to back out of it because they're saying, well, no, you didn't follow the instructions. Well, their instructions were unclear. So I want the instructions to be as clear as possible, and I want them to be able to sign something knowing what the outcome is going to be. We can perform our outcome based on the way it's written, and I don't like vagueness in uh, when I see repair addendum. So repair addendum would be something that we agree on. Okay, these are the problems. This is kind of what we can agree with. So we sign the repair addendum. If I'm representing the seller, we know exactly what it's going to take to say, okay, we can meet these requirements, and so that the deal can continue to move forward.
I really like that. Yeah, you want to be as specific as possible, right? So that way, you know, there's no loopholes around that. So that's very good. And we'll wrap it up with you, Andres. What would you say is as a real estate agent, your role in helping the clients, especially navigate through the home inspection aspect of the purchase?
So as far as a home inspection is optional, guys, but it is highly recommended by me specifically. But every agent should highly recommend a home inspection. How do you help your client with a home inspection? I have a list of inspectors, because I'm not allowed to pick your inspector, but I am allowed to provide you a list. So I have like 6 inspectors. I have an inspector that speaks Spanish. I have an inspector that does septic inspections. So I have a list for my clients. I tell my clients to go ahead, give them a call, interview them, see who you would like to move forward with. They pick someone on the list, and then once they pick, I uh, I will be available the day of the inspection. I'll show up. I'll open the property, and then once we receive the report, I'm not allowed to interpret. No agent is allowed to interpret the information in an inspection. But if your client needs an explanation, if I can explain it, I will give them the explanation. If I'm not able to explain them, I am comfortable with the inspectors they're working with. I would just reach out and have them explain it for my client. Um, the one thing that I want people to understand, that it is very, very important to get an inspection, not necessarily just um, as a thing that a box that we check in the transaction. It's very important, because if something's not up to code, or something is a safety hazard, or something's not functioning right, we can negotiate by using that inspector report, and therefore there is no confusion or, hey, that's your opinion. You present the report, they're going to present the code, they're going to say why it needs to be rectified. And I think it's less resistance when you're trying to negotiate repairs. So that's why I would recommend that for all my clients.
Andres, in the description down below, we left their contact information and their links. So make sure to reach out. But other than that, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you guys on the next episode of the Real Estate Roundup. Take care, guys.